Can you send me the YouTube link?
Yeah. I put it in my, I'm so dumb. I put it in my Patreon and I'm like, look at me, like way ahead of the game. And I didn't send it to you. Sometimes I'm not so smart. Okay, hold on.
A lot of steps to remember.
Let me get the link for you really quick.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it'll be super fun. Hello everybody who's joining us.
Hi.
Let's see. Make sure I don't accidentally click on something that with sound. I always have to tell Sean, because I've told you before that I send the link to him on the, like, from my computer to him to Voxer for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he knows now, but I'm always like, don't pay attention to that link. It's not important. Hello. I'm so excited because I feel like the feelings for this book were kind of mixed for people. So.
I think so too. Definitely was in the Shelf Space book club. There were a mix of feelings. So.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see why some people liked it, and I even though I had things I didn't love about it, I still overall enjoyed it. So I'll be curious to see if it's the same things, but just that it made people dislike it more than me.
Right.
You know,
right. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, there you go.
Cool.
You can go ahead and pop it into yours. Let's see. Hello. Oh, I'm so excited. Happy Black Sunday. It was funny because that sounds like it's some kind of dark day, like Sunday end of the week type of.
Right.
And when I went to post, like I was going to post some kind of little sun emoji because, you know, I'm really creative. I was like, oh, but it's black though. I can't have the sun be yellow. I'm so stupid. I overthink things. Hello.
Oh my gosh, I just saw the thumbnail video on my face. Love it.
See, I told you I was ahead of the game with some things. No, I'm super excited. This is very casual, obviously.
Right.
So we'll let people kind of trickle in. It will be spoilery because we're talking
and
about
we haven't actually talked too much about this book together. So like I haven't watched a review. I talked with people on like the Shelf Space live stream, just like in the chat and stuff. But other than that, I haven't really talked to a lot of people about this book.
Yeah, and it's funny because I didn't do a formal review for this one because I wanted to save it. For talking to patrons about it and stuff. And I thought eventually, if I wanted, we could take this fun chat and then I could load it, like a month from now or something.
Yeah,
and then have it so that people can watch it if they want.
Okay.
But I did a vlog and I talked about it a little bit in the vlog. It wasn't centered around Black Sun though in the vlog. I just picked it up and read it in basically a day. So
a day? That's so fast.
Yeah, because I started it and then within like 24 hours because I think I started it in the evening and then picked it up the next day and finished it. So
yeah,
it flies by. It was really fast.
I read it in about a week, which is fast for me.
And you have other books that you're reading too.
Yeah. I read multiple books at once. So
I need to remember everybody's names in this book because it's not like there was a ton of people, but their names were all not like your typical fantasy names. So I know the main one.
I only remember the three. So one of the main characters gets introduced like later on, and I can't remember his name.
It starts with an O. Akoa? Akoa? Something like Akoa, I think. It's spelled Okoa.
Okay.
But the other one's name, I just abbreviated it to, well, some people call her Nara. So
yeah.
I'm gonna call her Nara. And then I listened to the audiobook and they pronounced it Giala.
I listened to the audiobook too.
Yeah, I like listened and read along as we, both do now.
Like to do now.
Yeah, because you got me into doing that. So the names, if anybody's like, who are you even talking about? Because I saw somebody was saying they didn't know that the name was spelled with an X because they only it in. So anyway, and then Serapio. Yeah. So, but so I don't know how many people are going to be joining us, and I don't want to, it's only 5 after, so we'll give it a few more minutes, let people kind of hop in and join. Maybe I'll say well, no, I don't want to bombard people and be like, by the way, it's happening now. But yeah, so I'm curious, for those of you that are here, what were your general, like, liked it, hated it, mixed feelings, loved it? What were your thoughts? I want to see. We'll, of course, chat too, more in depth, but just kind of a general overview. Can you hear pretty good? Is the mic?
Yes, I can hear fine.
Okay. Because when I went to do that live show with Bookborn, one of them was like, make sure it's really close to you. Otherwise, like, I can't hear. You're like, it's a nice mic and I can't. Not that they couldn't hear me, but clearly the quality isn't as good as it should be for a mic like this. So I don't know I think I'm close enough. But it's
well, I don't know. I have the volume like turned up on my laptop, so I don't know if it's just me or what, but I can hear you fine. That's awesome, Lori.
That is nice.
I felt the same way. Like, I really liked the narrators, and I had a hard time like stopping listening. I just wanted to listen to it all the time.
It's weird because it's one of those books that I feel like I liked it more while I was reading it than I did afterwards, when I was done, which is usually the opposite. I feel like there will be some books that are a little much to get through. They're a little tedious, but then by the end, you really appreciate them. Like Queens of Innisleer was that for me, for sure. And even to some degree, Spinning Silver, which I loved and I really enjoyed reading it. But there were some moments where I'm like, I don't want to be with this kid perspective right now. But then by the end of it, I was like, I loved that book. And this one's interesting because I'm like, I totally get why some people aren't digging it.
Yeah, no, I do too.
Okay, let's see. Mixed feelings. It felt like a really long prologue. I kept waiting for depth. Yes, exactly. Which we'll get more into. I know, Jade, we haven't talked about much. This is what I said in the vlog, that it felt like a giant prologue. Also,
I could totally see that.
If you hear grumbles.
Especially with the way it ended.
There's Luna.
Grumbly Luna.
Okay, her shedding is getting out of control. I know some of you have seen me post about it. Just right before we started, I went to pet her. Look at this, is just like one literal, like, I just went like this. And look at this, like, it looks like that's insane. That's a lot of fur. It's like a chunky amount. Like, it looks like a cotton ball.
Yeah.
And that's, like, the whole house is just, like, clumps everywhere, and I vacuum, and the next day there's clumps everywhere. Outside, it looks like a chicken died, like an all-white chicken. It looks like it died, because Sean was playing with her the other day, and her fur just, like, because it's just coming off. It's only happens a couple times a year for Akita, so it's not a consistent thing, but it's weird. And like she doesn't like being brushed, so we have to bribe her where Sean will hold up a treat and then she comes up, and while she's standing up, I have to like quickly try to brush her, and I'm keeping a pile of her fur just to see how much by the end.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Sean thinks it's kind of gross that I'm doing that. No. The ending was yes. It was very abrupt. She couldn't make it. I was going to see if Deshauna wanted to join, but she just moved. So, she's got a lot of stuff going on. But she definitely felt like the ending of the book was supposed to be this awesome big thing, which I definitely feel like it was leading up to this big event. And then it kind of just happened, and you weren't really with the character as it was happening. And I can absolutely see why that would be frustrating. I mean, it's funny because I kind of like the mystery of what just happened. Like, are we going to maybe look back at that event when the next...
I hope so.
I know, because it happened so fast that you're like...
I know.
I missed it.
I remember reading and being like close to the end and being like, wait, there's only like 10 pages left. Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, there's got to be more. What's going on? And sure enough, it just like cuts off. And it's definitely a bit of a cliffhanger ending. And that's definitely my biggest con with the book. And I'm someone who, like, if I really hate an ending, it can totally ruin a book for me. And I didn't quite like hate the ending. Like, I still, I guess I'll go ahead and say I gave this 5 stars. Like, it was like a 4.5 that I rounded up just because my experience reading it was so enjoyable. But that ending, man, like, it's just such a cliffhanger, and I usually hate cliffhanger endings. I didn't hate it, but like the fact that we don't have news about the next book is killing me.
I do like cliffhanger endings. I love when I'm like, dang it, and it depends, of course, on how it's executed. Like,
right.
Strange the Dreamers cliffhanger ending is about as cliffhanger of an ending as you can have.
Yeah.
To where that could have been like, instead of 2 books, it could have just been 1.
Right.
But for me, it's not that I minded that it was a cliffhanger. It was more of just how abrupt it was. It very much felt like it just happened and then stopped and then it was over.
Yeah.
Which is part of why I feel like it contributed to it feeling like a giant prologue, because I would think that book 2 is going to start right there. And for me, there are some books that sorry, my neighbor is okay. They're backing into their driveway. I wasn't sure if they were like coming to talk to me, and I was like, "Oh, not a great time." They're really nice. Last week, oh my gosh, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. This is what happens when it's for patrons, is that we just but poor Jashana was like messaging me about like moving stuff, and I was like seeing it pop up on the screen as the live show for Legendborn was happening, and it was right as we started the live show, and I'm like getting these texts, and I'm like, I grabbed my phone and I texted Sean, I'm like, come here, and then I had to hand it to him, I'm like, please take care of this, because it was kind of important. So that I got nervous because I was like, oh no, not again. Something happening important. Anyway, so for me, it was that the end. I would think that book 2 is going to start right where book 1 leaves off. And there are some books that start really fast paced. Like An Ember in the Ashes is so quick when it's starting to where you almost feel like you could have gotten something leading up to it. And it's almost like all of Black Sun felt like, well, and I don't know. I don't know what Rebecca Roanhorse's intentions with this series are, but it almost feels like she knows where she wants it to go. And she's like, oh, shoot, I got to build up to this, though. I can't just start right here. Is how it feels for me. But I'm not mad about it.
I could see that. It was kind of a strange experience reading this book because I was totally hooked from the very beginning. Like that opening scene, I just was like, whoa. That was one of I need to know why this is happening and what it means. So I definitely was hooked from the very beginning. And then I was constantly engaged, even though like nothing was happening. And that was weird. It was like a disconnect because I can't say that it was fast paced because like things weren't really happening, but I was totally engrossed the whole time. Like I just wanted to know more. So that's why I enjoyed it so much, even though I agree it was kind of like a big prologue because like not a lot happened. I just found it so interesting.
Like some of it is backstory. And one of the characters is literally just taking another character from point A to point B. And like stuff happens along the way, of course. Right. And then another character is like, why is everybody just mean? Like, can't we all get along? And why can't people see my vision? Why are they trying to undermine me? Can they not? That was Nara. And then why can I never say his name? Akoa was more just, I liked him a lot. When he was introduced, I was like, I like this character. Potential to be my favorite character in this series. But we got so little of him and we got him so much later. Yeah. But it seemed really interesting. I mean, I'm always a sucker for the family drama in a story. Yeah. And I definitely feel like there's some of that there. He seems like somebody who wants to do the right thing, but doesn't exactly know what the right thing is because there's the cultists and everything with them. And so I really liked his perspective. And I was really engaged, like you're saying. But that's why I feel like when I was done with it, I'm like, I mean, that was a weirdly structured book. I don't know. This is interesting. 2.5 out of 5, but they still want to keep going.
So my favorite characters were Giala and Serapio. Like I found them so interesting. I'm curious what you thought of Serapio's flashbacks. I feel like that was a point of not contention, but in the shelf space, some people really liked the flashbacks and some people didn't. I loved the flashbacks.
Before I answer that, I am curious what made you give it 2.5. Like that's on the lower end, but you still want to go, which is cool. But I just always am interested in like what people like and don't like and how that relates to their ratings.
Their rating, yeah.
Okay. What's funny is they say in writing advice so often, don't use flashbacks. Right. And there are some people, and I'm not saying the shelf space friends were saying this at all. But there are some people that because it's almost a rule of writing, they will not like flashbacks no matter what.
No matter what. Yeah, I could see
There's some people that feel that way. I don't feel that way. And I actually lean more toward if you do a good job with them, then I don't care. That's how I feel about most things in writing. Like, well, if I liked how you did it, then I don't care. But the one book that often gets praised and it has tons of flashbacks and it's always on best of lists is Liza Lockelmora, and I hated those flashbacks because I thought they served a purpose initially, and then at some point in the book I thought they stopped serving a purpose and they were just there, and I'm like, okay, now you're just interrupting the important stuff. It's not like there would be sometimes it wouldn't even relate. Like the further into the story you got, the flashbacks weren't even really connected to modern present time, and it was frustrating me. And Way of Kings is also another one that gets praised all the time, and I love the flashbacks in those. I know not everybody loves the Rhythm of War ones, but in this book I thought they were fine. They didn't take away from me. I thought that
there weren't a lot of them either. They were they were key, in my opinion, they were key moments in Serapio's life that I thought were helpful for informing us about his past.
Yes. One thing a little bit is that his backstory definitely made you as the reader connect to him and understand him a little more. But weirdly, Giala doesn't know all of this. So when you sit back and think about it, you're like, why is she into this guy? She's kind of into him because he's tall, dark, and handsome and brooding and mysterious.
Yeah.
Because it's not like she knows everything. I mean, it says that they talk, and so I liked their interactions, don't get me wrong. But a little bit, I feel like those were to connect you to the character, and I didn't really feel like we got to see a lot of Giala and his conversations, because that could have been an opportunity. Instead of flashbacks, you could have had them discuss and talk about their lives, and then you could have seen them connect to each other in that way.
But I could also see that Serapio wouldn't tell her some of those things, because he barely knows her at that point.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't think he doesn't really go into details. So yeah, that's a good thing to point out, that it probably wouldn't have worked. But
he kept his role as who he was a secret for such a long time. And one of my favorite scenes is when he tells her who he is and what he's doing in the city, because she makes a joke about how reincarnated gods are basically they're just going to be sacrificed, ha 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 ha. And I was laughing so hard. I was like, oh my god, this is so awkward. And then yeah, that's me. I mean, that's not exactly how it happened, but in my mind that's how it played out, where she was joking about it and he's like, yep, that's me. And I just thought it was the funniest scene.
I thought it was sad when she was crying, though.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I really, really, really liked her, and I thought. Sorry, let me read what you were saying. Let's go through some comments. Yeah, let's go through some comments really quick. Looked a lot alike. Yeah, and I'm curious for those of you that listen to the audiobook. Did you ever, when they used the gender neutral pronouns, did you ever think that she was saying she instead of she, like it's spelled XE? Or I, and then there's an XE, I think, spelling, depending on if you're saying them or using it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I pretty much always had the book in front of me now that I think about it. So I think that probably helped me a lot. I very rarely was listening to it without seeing the word. So for me, no, but I could see why.
Yeah. Let's see. This is something I want to touch on too, so we'll get to that. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too, but ultimately I was like, I'm excited for book 2 now, but Jade's right that we don't know when it's coming. So
I know.
It's the kind of book that if the sequel was out, I feel like I would immediately want to jump into the next one.
Right. It's the kind of book that is the reason why I hate reading unfinished series.
Yeah.
Obviously, people have to read series before they're completed. We want them to be completed one day and everything, but it's this is the epitome of why I don't like to do this.
I know. I was thinking of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's how I felt too, was the world was just so interesting.
Oh, was that Toby?
It's actually Chloe.
Oh.
Can you not, please?
Yeah, so it's funny. I think that this is the kind of book that has the potential within the series as a whole for me to really connect and care about the characters. But just within that first book, I don't feel like I had enough time to fall in love with them. I like them all and I find them all interesting, but I was not, if one of them had died, I would have been like, oh man. But I wouldn't have like been really choked up about it.
Yeah, I strangely really connected with Serapio, which I'm typically not into like dark and brooding characters. I just think they're annoying.
It was like weirdly wholesome.
But he's very wholesome, and he knows what his fate is. Like, I'm hoping that's not really what's gonna happen, because I do love him. But like, and he just like has wholeheartedly accepted it, and it's just like, this is what it is. And I think that's why I love him so much. He's like a hero figure. But then another thing that I loved about this book is that the more you get to know Nara and like her side of the story, it's like, wait, I love Serapio, but like, is he the bad guy? Like,
Right.
I have such mixed feelings about that. And usually I'm always like, I'm not a big villain person. Like, I know lots of people really love good villains, but usually I'm always on the hero side. And in this one, I was actually really torn, because I grew to love Serapio, partially, I think, because of those flashbacks so much. But then towards the end of the book, I was like, I'm really torn. Like, I don't know if I'm really rooting for Serapio, even though I am, like, so I really liked Serapio, and I did fall in love with him, I think, out of all of the characters.
I also want to add to that usually when you have any kind of chosen one, they're reluctant. And it was weird that he was so the opposite. He was so resigned to his fate, but then also wasn't the personality you would expect. Like, he's kind of a subdued, calm, quiet person, and just kind of like, yep, I have to go here and this is how it is. And it's just, I don't know. It's a different character type than what we usually see.
Yeah, I think that's actually why I loved him so much.
I also wish that we'd seen
the Knives.
Or, I mean, okay, so it's tough because anytime in a book that there's no reference to previous things, then it feels like there's a lack of world building. But then sometimes when you get references to things, then you're like, I want to see that though. Like, I wish we could get more about that. So it's a hard balance of like fitting. For me, it's a hard balance of like, what's enough? And if it affects later generations this much, should we have more of this? Should we see this? Because we're already getting flashbacks. So should we have had flashbacks? I also kind of feel like it's not that I didn't understand, but I definitely feel like my brain, when I'm first reading a book, and if I go back and reread, then it can change. But when I'm first reading it, I'm paying more attention to the characters and their motivations and their relationships, and less about like history stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I feel like I never quite got enough out of the nuances of why there's so much difficulty within the cultures.
Yeah.
Like, I understood that it was a thing, but the really getting into why it's a thing, I feel like I was like, it's just a thing. Like, I just accepted it and I didn't dive as deep as I probably could have. And I don't know if that's on me or if that's something where maybe it just needed more attention. Not needed like factually, it did need more, but all of it for me, I guess.
I think the politics was hard to grasp. And I think that it was kind of, this book serves as like an introduction to the politics, and that we'll learn more about it. So I've seen multiple people, even in the Shelf Space chat, say that they wish they had the Knight of Knives as the prologue. But I think that if we had had that, I would have been confused. Like, I wouldn't have understood what it was.
Why that was so
I'm more hoping that it's like a flashback or a prologue in future books, because I would like to see it now that I have a foundational understanding of what it was and what some of the repercussions were, And so I do hope to see it at some point.
What can make something really compelling is when you start to really root for a certain group of people or a certain character, and then when later you get that flashback and it turns out the people you've been rooting for this whole time might actually sort of, maybe even not them, but their ancestors were responsible.
Like, and it's not what you thought it was.
Yeah, then it's a moral conundrum, because you're like, oh shoot, I mean, I care about all these people,
right?
But that was not so great.
Right. Yeah.
That's a hard thing to write anyway. especially because it's almost impossible for people to not draw real world comparisons. Because if you're going to write a group of people who it turns out like, oh, whoopsies, I guess my ancestors were colonizers or something of that sort, then you're kind of like, ah, shoot, like that's not great, you know? So I think it's a difficult thing to pull off. And so I'll be very curious to see, but I do think this author already is showing us two different sides. So it's not like we're only seeing one side, but it will be interesting to see if in present day we are rooting for one more than the other. And then later we get that. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
A bunch of stuff. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that's how we feel, except for we liked it, I think, more than you did. But I felt that way too. I'm hoping maybe we won't ever get it, but maybe we'll just understand it better.
Yeah, I agree with this too.
Seems like a lot of us liked The Flash.
Okay, gotcha.
So you feel very similar to me on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I liked him in this book too. It's funny how we didn't get very many of them, but I felt like I understood so much about what happened in between, even though I didn't see.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, like, I feel like they're very like important moments out of Serapio's life that really like helped us to understand his character.
Yeah. I guess what's interesting is we really didn't need flashbacks for Giala. I actually felt like I understood. This is something I was going to touch on before, but I wanted to get through some more of the chat. I really thought that Giala's character was arguably, like, I don't know if I would say the best written one necessarily, but her circumstances were done so well without being so in your face. Like, look, see, she has no, like, how is she supposed to live when people always, this is what happens. This is always what happens. People have their dumb stereotypes and prejudices toward her, and it controls her fate no matter what she does, no matter how good she is, no matter how hard she works. It doesn't matter. And so how do you expect that person to always be nice and perfect? Of course, they're going to maybe drink a little. Of course, they're going to embrace the more exciting, passionate things in life because they have to, because they don't know when somebody's hatred is going to kill them, basically. And you see that happen, right? Like, obviously, that part on the ship. Yeah. You're just like, these stupid idiots. Like, you're frustrated for her.
Yeah. I'm just going to shut my door real quick.
Okay. Let me see what else you all said. Okay. Yeah, I don't think anybody, it's interesting. Everybody here seems to really like the
flashbacks. Flashbacks. I do think that Giala has a really interesting past, and there were enough hints given that I want to know more about her past, like what happened with her family. I'm very curious about, but I'm okay with not having gotten that in this book and getting it in later books. I'm hoping we do get it in later books.
Sorry, I want to see.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it is hard to hear, I think.
Oh,
interesting.
Oh, wow. So, all right.
I think this was the first time I'd seen, like, a separate pronoun used.
So, I'm reading right now. I only just started it for reading Spirit Winter's Orbit, but there's a big emphasis on, like, they wear certain things to distinguish how they identify. So when you meet somebody, you can see, like, yeah, then you'll know the, like, correct way to speak, refer to them. And I'm like, that's interesting. I just think it's kind of funny that because I don't know, our own world, like I was sort of saying earlier, we're always tying things to our own world, that we put that in a sci-fi or fantasy book. And I feel like there are some people that take it, I don't know, they get upset about it as if it's like a statement. And I'm like, well, we can be really creative in so many ways, but then, like, I don't know, it's just kind of interesting. We don't need to get into that, but I think it's really cool. I think that it's really cool that we're seeing this in sci-fi and fantasy, and the ways in which, okay, how would this culture, because there was a lot in Black Sun, even in Serapio's flashback, there was the one character that was like, this backwater town is, they don't know, like, and I thought it was kind of interesting that the way we're taking a society that is not necessarily modern the way our society is modern, but they still have this in it, which I think I thought it was done really interestingly.
I mean, that's what I thought was interesting about the different cultures. Like having the third gender was accepted in one culture, but not in others. And Ziala being kind of like bisexual is accepted in some places and not in others. So having that representation, but it not being like accepted by everybody, but only by some people, I really enjoyed seeing that.
Yeah. The first book felt the people.
Interesting.
I think that I'll add what you were saying to Jade, that even just how women are treated from one place to the next. Like when they get to that destination that they're headed toward for most of the book, and then she's like, oh yeah, it's kind of nice to be in a place where not everybody thinks
like more of a matriarchy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I felt about it too. So
yeah,
okay,
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I'll go through and see.
I was just going to say that I didn't really like Nara's point of view until about halfway through the book. And then she had grown on me. And I think I understood the politics a little bit more at that point, and I found it more interesting. But the first half of the book, I just found her really like annoying because, like you were saying, she was just kind of like complaining that people didn't agree with her and didn't know why everyone was like trying to undermine her and stuff. And I didn't connect with her until the second half of the book.
It's hard for me to really, I didn't hate her, but I also, in a fictional setting, I get annoyed at characters that aren't particularly tactful, or that's probably not the right way to put it, but I like very calculating characters. I like characters that think ahead.
Very passive. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like she kind of would, she would do things and then be like, why? I don't understand. Like, why? How can you guys think this way? Why don't you? She's naive. She seemed very naive to me.
Yeah.
About human nature. And given that she was in this leadership role, I kind of wanted her to be more aware and more, oh gosh, what is the, not ruthless. Gosh, I wish I could think of the word that I'm trying to think of, but I just wish that she was a little more aware of how these people are. Because for me, not even being that, knowing the characters that she's interacting with, not even knowing them very well, I was like, can you stop trusting these people? Like, seriously, what? As soon as I met them, I'm like, they're all super annoying. I feel like they all have their own individual motivations. They all have their own things. Like, I could tell immediately. So her being like, oh, well, they locked me in my room, but I hope that, like, I'm just like, come on. I wanted her to take action.
No, I felt the same way. And the one character whose name I'm not remembering, it starts with an A, that like really betrayed her. The whole time, I just thought she was so annoying and such. Like, I don't know if it's partially the voice that the narrator gave.
They give her a very annoying
voice, but she was just like
Abba. Was that her name? I think that's something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was so obnoxious.
Yeah.
I was gonna see. I think that was her name. I was gonna check
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That chick was super obnoxious. She just, referring to Nara again. Yeah. I started to like her a little more when she finally went to her brother.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
But then when she went back, I'm like, why are you going back? Stop. Don't go back. Don't go back.
No, that didn't really occur to me at the time, but a lot of people in shelf space were talking about that and how like they didn't understand why she went back. But to me at the time, I was just like, well, she snuck out, so she's got to sneak back in. But then when it ended up with like her, like basically that Anva or whoever she was trying to kill her, I was like, okay, maybe you really shouldn't have gone back.
I know. So the reason I thought she was being sneaky is because she's like, if they see me trying to leave, they'll probably kill me. Like they're only keeping me around for whatever reason. So I'm like, why are you going back? You don't even have a plan. Like, I mean, she kind of had a plan, but not, I don't know.
Yeah, I think she trusted her bodyguard, like to take care of it all, which obviously didn't pan out.
Yeah. It's because, there
were a lot of hints that there was something between her and her predecessor, but like, there's obviously more to the story, and I would like to know more about that as well.
They kind of left her with all the stuff. I have a question. I think I just don't. I may have just missed it. And I think there's a reason why, and I'll voice what I think the reason was, but in case anybody is like, oh yeah, no, it's this. So, the whole thing with Giala and Serapio is he needs her to take him to this other place. Mm-hmm. And it's like a big deal. They need her, and the fact that she has these powers that kind of have to do with the ocean or whatever, they're like, hopefully that can help. And they don't even know if they can make it in time. And then the crew wants to kill her, and then he basically like summons his crows, and they all peck everybody to death or whatever. It was really gruesome. But then it's like, oh, don't worry, my crows will get us the rest of the way, basically, right? Like we'll kind of control some of this, but like they're gonna help us out getting there. And I'm like, did we need this whole crew then this whole time, or is it just because like it took the crows a while to get there that we needed?
So I think what they had to do was like cross a really big part of the ocean. And so I think the crows could only come a certain way. Also, by revealing the crows, that like reveals more about Serapio. So he probably didn't want to do that at first, but it was like when they got close enough to the shore that the crows could come to them, then it just kind of like worked out. That's how I took it.
Yeah. I didn't think it was like a plot hole or anything. I was just like, wait, why did we need them again? And I was pretty sure there's like other elements, because he still had to summon the crows from a distance. Like it took him a little bit. But I was kind of like, I feel like this wasn't, I guess
a lot of it was more that he just didn't want to reveal himself.
Yeah. I think that's probably what it is. Sorry, is yes.
Yeah. I really didn't like how passive she was. I do prefer when characters take more initiative.
We can definitely go spoilery. Go for it. I mean, I definitely have.
Yeah, I feel like we've been spoilery. Go for it.
Yeah. Laura. So yeah, feel free. No problem. I was.
I wish we got the brother for sure.
Her brother.
But I think that we will in the next book. So
her brother's story made me really sad.
Yeah.
I felt bad for him. Mm-hmm. I'm also I'm interested in the witch.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, the witch lady being like, oh, well, there's a chance you might die, so I need your blood. And then when she's like, I just need your blood so I can find you. Like, I can't save you necessarily. And she's like, are you serious? That's the only reason that you needed that whole part. Do you remember? I thought
yeah. And even when Nara jumped off the bridge, like, I didn't think she was going to be dead. And then the witch finds her already dead. And I was like, oh, I mean, I'm assuming that she'll bring her back, but.
Is she totally dead? I thought she was
totally dead. Like when the witch found her. And then she was like doing stuff to her to try and bring her back. But I thought she was totally dead. And I was surprised because she jumped off the bridge thinking that she would survive the fall. So I was surprised by that. But maybe I misread it.
I want to check now.
Yeah. If anyone in the chat remembers.
It's like the very end. So
yeah. I mean, so much stuff happened at the very end. So I totally could have misread it.
Maybe I just assumed like she's fine. Maybe that's the problem, is that I was like, she's not dead. Maybe I just told myself. Like,
I mean, I'm assuming she will come back to life. But I thought she was dead and I was surprised by
that. Nara's history with her
mentor. Yeah. Yeah. So someone in Shelf Space, it might have even been Jesse, was saying that they're hoping that each book will have flashbacks from different characters and that maybe we'll get flashbacks from Nara in the next one.
That would be
really cool. Yeah.
We almost did. It wasn't really a super formal flashback, but we saw a little bit of when she was a kid and she had her two brothers. Yeah. And I think it's interesting. There's more with her that I would like, because the whole idea that they're never really going to respect her because she's like from the dirt and, that whole aspect of it. And I feel like we didn't get as much of those details.
Right.
And that part of the culture, that kind of darker, judge people sort of thing. So there was no, that's a good question. What was he doing up until then?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
I don't know. Now I'm thinking, why couldn't he just ride a giant crow like Akoa?
The whole way.
Yeah. It's like
the crows were so cool. I want to know more about the crows.
I know. It's like, but that reminds me of the joke about Lord of the Rings. Like, why didn't they just have the giant eagles fly them there? That's
true.
That's kind of how I feel about it. Yeah, I definitely what I think is kind of interesting is I don't even know that the characters know all that much about the world's magic, because even Giala is like, what the heck, when she
Yeah, she was like, I didn't think this was
turned
real.
into a
Yeah,
mermaid.
the scene where she like turned into the siren, that was so cool. I was not like I knew that they were like she had some sort of sea powers, but like I was not expecting that to be like what it was. I thought that was really cool.
The early chapter in the book says she was alive. Okay.
Okay.
But then I'm pretty sure she.
Who knows?
Why can't you guys fact check us? Come on.
Yeah, I don't have my coffee anymore, so. Right, exactly. I was like, you dumb bee. Like, what?
I like the filtering.
Yes.
Like my level of filtering.
Yes.
You dumb B word.
Yes. Did that just for you.
I mean, you know, I don't care, but it's nice for patrons and everybody for being respectful. Her body was getting stiff.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I'm glad we're not the only. Because
okay, so it's definitely a point of like uncertainty. I'm sure if we reread it, it'd be a little more clear. But just like things happen so fast at the end that like it's easy to see why we wouldn't know for sure.
Not feeling the sun priest nearby, right?
Oh, interesting.
So that was the whole thing, right? Like he was technically supposed to kill her, but then she's not around, which messed up his situation.
Yeah, and I forgot that he could like feel her, and because I'm pretty sure he realized that the sun priest was a stand-in, right? Like that it wasn't.
He knew immediately.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about that whole part at the end was that he's not totally himself at the very end. So I feel like
he's been kind of obsessed.
Yeah, it's like plays into the ambiguity of that last scene, or one of the last scenes, because you're like, what's happening right now? Because I don't think he's really in his own normal head.
Right.
Nara was dead, but the cliffhanger is to know whether the witch will succeed in bringing her back.
That's how I took it. Yeah.
I'm glad, at least, because when you said that, I'm like, I know sometimes I'm dumb, but I was like, I don't think I'm like that clue. So I'm glad somebody out there is probably like, no, it's really clear. Chapter 3 says she's not dead, even though the witch thought her so.
But why was it in chapter 3? Is that like maybe the epitaph or something? I don't know. I'm surprised you remembered that, because I wouldn't have remembered, like, even if I'd seen the name the witch Zataya, and then when we're introduced to her later, I wouldn't have like connected that.
What did you think of those before chapter things?
I thought they were interesting, but I didn't really understand them. I think that they'll hold more meaning on reread as usual.
Right.
I did read them. Some people in Shelf Space were like, "Oh, I never read that stuff." I was like, "I read it, but I like don't really understand what it means."
Okay, cool. You guys are checking. I was checking too. I didn't see it in the before chapter thing. To reread the.
Yes. Oh yeah, using a physical copy. Agreed.
Feel kind of happy. Stole. Yes.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, I kind of like none of them. The only one who was halfway decent that we could see was Nara, and then so she wasn't around in that moment. Right. So everybody else, I'm like, I don't care about these people. They all. I almost thought that it could have been slightly more compelling if we had cared more about them. Then it would have been like, oh no, don't.
Yeah, and I am really curious about her bodyguard character. If he, I don't know, I'm interested in him because there were a few points where Nara wasn't sure if she should trust him anymore, like because he was acting suspicious. Or I guess I shouldn't say he. Jay. I can't say it. But yeah, they were acting suspicious, and then at the end, I don't think that they were there when Serapio was killing everybody. I think somebody else was there in their place.
I didn't trust that person ever.
Really? They
ever.
used to be lovers, so like I wanted to trust them.
I felt like they played Nara a lot. That's the vibe I got. I think they were very casually. I don't think it meant a lot to them Even when they're like, please be safe. And so I'm like, they're constantly just having her stay put and not do much. Like they were encouraging her to be more passive so they could do other things.
Yeah. So I want to know what was going on because I kind of trusted them based on Nara's trust of them, and I don't know if I should have because they were definitely being suspicious, and I want to know what happened to them at the end because they weren't there. So like, did they get like imprisoned before that? Or, like what happened?
Yeah, I think that character, they had their own motivations, and like
I want to know what they are.
Really, they don't align exactly with what the rest of the group does, but then they also, I think they've got their own thing going on. So, but I was just always, when you're saying like because Nara trusted them, I don't trust anything that Nara trusts. I'm like, girl, you're clueless.
Probably smart.
Iktan is presumed
that was
alive at the end. Intentional, and the author confirmed that Iktan wasn't misgendered.
Is presumed alive.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, is there anything we didn't feel the same on? I feel like we felt exactly the same.
Well, I might have enjoyed it overall more than you did, but I don't know.
I mean, with this, with them, you and I have like a few, like everything they felt about this, I feel like is what I felt. I think I think we both enjoyed it. I think that you enjoyed it a little more. Yeah. I liked it too, though. I don't know, but I didn't absolutely love it. I think earlier when we were talking about that connection to the characters and feeling like there wasn't as much as there could have been, that's sort of how I felt, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. But I would say that I loved it. I think the ending took away a little bit. And it's one of those like loves, like I don't really know why I loved it because not a lot happened. And usually, I mean, I'm not a strictly plot-driven reader, but I do appreciate a good, fast-moving plot. And this didn't have that, but I still really enjoyed it. I mean, for me, it's all about my experience and if I enjoy reading it while I'm reading it. And I just I couldn't put it down. I wanted to know what's going to happen next. There were so many moments that I was like, what? Like the moment when Ziala, whenever she jumped into the ocean to save that guy and then basically like turned into a siren and they were like scared of her when they pulled her out. Like that was a big shocking moment. The moment when Serapio called down his crows and killed the whole crew. I was just like, oh my gosh, what are they going to do now? Like that was a big moment. There were just like so many moments that I was like, oh my God, what's happening? That I had so much fun with it.
I just felt bad for him. Like when he got his like little chocolate drink thing. And I was like, Serapio, live for chocolate. Like, find a reason to live. The world can be nice. You don't have to die. I know. I just wanted him to have he had no sense of normalcy. His life was basically my mom jacked up my face. And then my dad felt some kind of way about it and was weird. And then the fact
that he could like still love his mom and say that his mom loved him after she did that to him. I just was like,
I felt bad for his dad. I actually wish we could have gotten more about his dad because I feel like his dad loved him because in that moment he's like, stop. He was trying to come in because he didn't want her to be doing this stuff to his son. But then afterwards, it's kind of interesting that, like you're saying, Serapio still loved his mom so much and thought his mom loved him, but then he feels negatively toward his father. And I think that's really...
It sounds like his dad kind of like took a step back.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but maybe it's like, my son's been mutilated. I don't I think he was my son anymore. I don't know.
I think his dad was like weirdly traumatized and didn't know what to do. With it. Like, I don't know. I think his dad just was at a loss. And it's kind of sad because Serapio's mom sort of was like, well, you learn from one of the mentors that it was kind of like, well, whoever will do, whoever can get this to happen is, and he's good enough, and I don't know. I feel like I kind of felt bad for his dad. I mean, I still feel bad for Serapio. I wanted somebody to love him, but see, I was wondering that a little too, if there's something going on.
Rather interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
I think they have other things going on and that it's going to be revealed that they're shadier than, not shady like bad, but they've got their own stuff,
I feel like they've got their own stuff, but in the end, it might still be to protect Nara. That's what I'm hoping. Like they were doing things, but they didn't want to tell Nara about them.
Everybody's favorite trope. We do. Who wasn't a fan?
Oh no, I loved their relationship.
I thought it was cute. It was like it should not have been wholesome, but it was. That's how I felt about it. I was
There
like,
were people in shelf space who weren't a fan, so Laura, you're not totally alone.
so what? Whoops, sorry. What was it people didn't like about it? I want to know.
I'm trying to remember. Obviously, the ending, a lot of people didn't like.
What didn't they like about Giala and Serapio?
Oh, about Giala and Serapio, that it was unnecessary and that they wish they were just friends, and that Giala fell in love with Serapio too easily. They just like barely knew each other, but I mean, I think there was a lot of talking that wasn't on page. Like Giala would talk to him all night, sort of thing. They just weren't feeling it, I think, but I really liked it.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair too.
And I did really love that scene where like he has this last normal day and has her show him around and like tell him about thing. Like that was so cute.
I know, and like he thinks like the world is like more vibrant when she's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why was this stupid thing so cute? And it's and he's like potentially gonna go slaughter a bunch of people.
I know, it's just made me love Serapio more. But then he's gonna go kill all these people who we're not sure are really bad people. So
well, and I think part of it too, their kind of love story aspect of it. I think that she definitely feels very strongly toward him, but I didn't get the vibe that she was thinking, I would let the whole world burn for you. That's how much I love you. I don't think it was that kind of, I think it was a combination of that she really, hold on. Hello. Hi. Sean's home from the grocery store. I think it was a combination of the fact that, like you're saying, there was a lot happening that we didn't really get tons of details with them talking all night, and this wanting something more for him, but also wanting something more for herself. I think she fell in love with where they could have gone when she thought that they were just going to get to this place and maybe they'll stick together and they'll have adventures together, or they'll kind of settle down this. I think it was
she like sold the ship and was like trying to think of what she's going to do next because she wasn't planning to go back to that guy and was like wanting to do things with him only to find out that he's planning to die.
Exactly. So I think it was fell in love with what could have been kind of thing. That's how I felt about it. I know. Yeah,
I didn't think the romance was too heavy. Like I could see why people just like would rather it not be there. I could see that, but I enjoyed it because it wasn't too much in your face and it was kind of a slow burn, and I liked it.
I also think that part of it is that we see, I mean, it's human nature if when people are attracted to each other and, that kind of thing, but we just don't see friendships very often. I'll be curious in book 2 if characters start coming together, if we'll be seeing more friendship elements to the story. I think that could be.
Yeah.
I thought I was too. Why was it so cute?
Politics, I did think were a little bit weak. They just weren't very well explained.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot there and that we just don't know it.
Yeah.
Love I will slaughter a whole crew with my bird magic to defend you romance isn't dead. It's like step above Six of Crows, Yeah.
I mean, I did feel like that was a drastic step to take to kill them all. Like he could have just killed the one guy that was like the main insurrectionist and like taught them a lesson, but he just like killed them all.
I feel like he kind of had to, because if they were freaking out over her being fired,
I was frustrated that they wanted her to be captain and felt safe doing this like impossible task because they thought she had these powers. And then it's like, hey, I have even more powers. And they're like, kill her.
I know.
I didn't appreciate that.
It's
but
like,
I get it.
It's like the she's a witch thing. Want them.
Yeah.
I do want her. I want them both to have some happiness. I just want him to be able to like eat good food. And
I was happy that by the end, like Serapio's not 100% dead. Like
Okay.
I didn't want that to be the ending of the book.
We haven't talked about this yet. It's a little thing, but the fact that he like undid the sewing and then was able to like open his eyes, I was like, ah.
But he still can't see.
He can't see. You can see through his birds. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's just, it's all going to come down to, preference and how it came across to you.
And I did like that Ziala was kind of like a free spirit, and she's attracted to both men and women, and just like is down to have a good time even if there's not a relationship involved or whatever. I liked that about her personality.
Yeah. And then the fact that he was so reserved, they're very opposite in that way. And I thought it was kind of cute that they liked that about the other. That
reminds me, one of the complaints in Shelf Space about their relationship was that Serapio, many times when they were like being attracted to each other, was like awkward and like didn't know what to do. But then the bathtub scene, they thought that was like a big change for Serapio, that he was able to.
I don't think so, because it said.
I feel like she guided him.
Yeah, it's a little like steamy, but she kind of like.
I think she helped him. Yeah. So I just wanted to say, like, that was one complaint that people had, was they thought.
That's interesting.
But
yeah, that didn't bother me, because she was kind of like almost, how do I explain? I think people understand. I don't think I need to
explain. She helped him.
She helped him out a little bit. Yeah. It said that she like guided him for what she liked and wanted.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought
that. I thought it was cool that he got to like have that experience before he died.
Yeah. And then
the eye stuff freaked me. I mean, from the very beginning, when the mom sewed his eye shut, I was like, oh my God, ow. I mean, what a hook.
I know, but I can't handle eye stuff. That's why I wear glasses. I can't wear contacts. Freaks me out just to think about it.
I wore contacts for a lot of my life, so that doesn't bother me. But the idea of like sewing your eyes shut, that does bother me.
Yeah, I think it's a little different than
contacts.
I can't even handle contacts. So, what do you think, Luna? What do you think? You have a snaggle right now.
What do you think your favorite scene was out of the whole book? Do you have one?
I don't know. I don't think I have a favorite scene.
I think my favorite scene was when Ziala jumped into the ocean to save the dude and turned into a siren, and everyone freaked out. Because I didn't see that coming. Like, I knew she had like abilities, and that people like the folklore about her culture was kind of along those lines, but to actually have that come to fruition, I was not expecting that, and I just thought it was so cool.
I do like the hot chocolate that for the town
scene too.
I definitely liked that quite a bit. Because it was just so stupid cute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I definitely this isn't a favorite scene or anything, but I'm just thinking about what I want to know more about in the next book. The one thing we haven't talked about is how Akoa's mom died, and how like she was probably murdered. And I feel like, I mean, I don't think anybody in the story has put this together, but someone was trying to murder Nara, the sun priest, and someone did murder the head of the crow people. So I feel like that's got to be like the same like group of people that are doing both of those things. And they're just trying to make it seem like it's the other person. So I want to know more about her murder and who was behind that and stuff.
I mean, I think there's a lot that's kind of hinted at in this one, and then we'll get more confirmation in the fall. Oh my gosh. Did you hear her grumble? Oh, it was so loud. I'm curious. So that kind of leads into predictions. Whatever, if anybody has any predictions for the next one. I think we're definitely going to get more of character crossover and seeing more of how the characters interact with each other. I want Serapio and Nara to band together to take out like everybody who sucks that's like playing each other, and then there's negative consequences for innocent people. I want them to just do work and handle everything. Is it going to be a series or a trilogy, or does anybody know?
I don't know. I think it's going to be at least a trilogy, but I don't know if it's going to be more, and I don't really have factual evidence of that. Yeah, I wish we knew more about the series, like how many books, when is the next one coming out? Like, I'm just dying to know. I really loved it.
Yeah, I'm definitely. Well, I want to read her other series now. Trail of Lightning.
I read the first one. And I didn't like it, but I'm not a huge urban fantasy reader. I think that's part of it, because it definitely feels different. It's a little more romance heavy, I think, and like it has an urban fantasy feel. But I didn't like the characters or the magic very much, so it was kind of disappointing for me. But it's kind of an unpopular opinion. A lot of people really like the Trail of Lightning books, and I think that one might just be a duology. Either it's a duology or that's all that's published, and there will be more. I don't know.
I thought that one had a few books.
Oh, really?
Let me see. Are you going to pull it up?
Yeah.
Right. I thought she needed to finish that series.
Maybe you're right.
I
know at least 2 are out.
It's called The Sixth World.
Yeah. Yeah. There's at least 4 books
projected. So it looks like there's 2 out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So from what we're seeing, it looks like there's a projected 4 total.
Why won't you tell me how many books you're projected for this series? I want to know.
So, does anybody else have any other predictions beyond just character crossover, Serapio and Nara?
I think Nara's coming back to life. I think the witch is going to be successful. I think I like the idea of getting flashbacks from other point of views, maybe Nara in the next book, and learning more about the Knight of Knives. I'm looking forward to Akoa and Serapio getting to know each other. I feel like they could be like a good guy friend sort of thing. I want to know who murdered Akoa's mom.
I want more of the drama in his family.
Yeah. And I want to know about Nara's brother.
Yeah. What's funny about his family's thing is the little stuff that you're like, dude, I feel this right now. Where he's thinking like, I should wear my uniform. And she's like, I can't believe you're wearing that. You won't even wear the right morning outfit. And like the little stuff.
His sister seems so annoying.
I know, but at the same time, I'm like, that's exactly what like the kind of when you know people really well, the stupid stuff. Not that it was stupid, but just the little things. It's like, I can't believe you would do this. Like they're annoyed at each other over everything. I kind of liked that. I just like
it's realistic. Yeah.
Yeah. She did seem really annoying. But then at the same time, I'm like, she's kind of under a lot of pressure. And I definitely feel like he went off.
I feel like it's really shady that she tried to cover up her mom's murder.
You think that there's more to that?
Yeah. I almost wonder if she was behind it, but I don't know. I don't think so. But I did have that thought that did she have her mom murdered and then say it was a suicide so that she could be the head person now?
I don't know. It'll be interesting. Well, he got that note too, right? He got
the note that she wrote when he was born. Like
she knew.
Yeah, like how?
It makes me think she's involved in something just like Serapio's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much about this book that I feel like there are hints that'll come to matter later.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but it does kind of make this first book, not that I didn't enjoy it because I did, but it makes it slightly less satisfying because it's so much. I think that contributes to it feeling like so much setup. But I still
it wasn't satisfying, but it was still so much fun.
Yes, I think so too. Anyway, this was fun. Thanks everybody for reading and joining and chatting.
Yeah, it's good to see what you guys had to think about it.
Yeah. So, Luna's starting to whimper, so I think she's
hungry.
She's getting needy. Well, she'll be in about half an hour is when she gets fed. So, yeah, I feel like that would be a good use of that.
Yeah, I think so too.
But yeah, well, thanks everybody. That was super fun. I will see you all later next reading sprint.
Yeah.
And whatnot. And then hopefully we can read the other, I have the Bone Shard Daughter, Malice, and Priory. So hopefully I can do this again. And maybe you can join us for a Priory.
Yeah. Well, and let me know when you're getting close to starting a Malice, because I did kind of put it on my TBR. I'm going to try to read it with you, but I have a lot of things I want to read.
I know, I do too. But the rest of our friends are always freaking out about it.
I know. We have friends that are loving that series, and we want to get in on that love. So
we do. We're having FOMO right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Have a good rest of the day.